You first.
So, it's not great.
Right. I'm introducing this episode and I forgot to write anything. So instead, I have let AI do the job for me. The results are hilarious and I disagree with them. But Blevin, would you like to hear an intro written by AI for this episode?
There's nothing I would like to hear more, Sam.
Wonderful. All right, here we go. Welcome, metalheads, to another electrifying episode of Maiden Voyages, where we dive deep into the sonic realms of Iron Maiden's illustrious discography. Today, we strap on our virtual reality headsets and embark on a journey through the digital landscapes of Virtual 11. Join us as we unravel the mysteries, dissect the riffs, and explore the intricacies of Iron Maiden's 11th studio album. From the haunting melodies to the relentless rhythms, let's uncover the hidden gems and untold stories behind the epic chapter in Maiden's history. So crank up the volume, raise your horns high, and prepare to dive into the virtual world of Iron Maiden.
Holy hell, is that AI?
That is AI, and that is much longer than we would normally do for an intro.
It's much better than we do, let's be honest.
Yeah, except the biggest flaw is it speaks positively of the album we're about to dissect.
But I mean, you know, maybe we could just set this podcast up as just two AI bots just having this conversation. Because that's really good, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we could just get our AI to script the entire thing and then we just read it out dramatically.
Yeah.
I think if we do that, I might feel really bad about myself as a human.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, yeah. But
And for society and the world we live in.
it would be interesting. I suggest we do it just as like an off, and then we sort of wait and watch as this podcast blows up. And then we're crippled by self-doubt and insecurity where we can't let anyone know.
I already feel dirty and unclean having just done that.
Yeah, we were just reading the AI.
Anyway, should we introduce ourselves?
Yes, so I'm Blev, an historian of sorts, and I am an Iron Maiden. I'm just staring at your curtains. I was about to say, I'm an Iron Maiden curtain cleaner.
Curtain cleaner?
Yeah. I feel like there's a kind of level of servitude and sort of... like I would clean the curtains of Iron Maiden. I'm Iron Maiden curtain cleaner.
Okay. I'm Sam. I'm a journalist of sorts. I'm not an AI construction. And
Or is he?
I'm not. And I am an Iron Maiden dustpan and brush.
He is, yeah. Steve Harris is having what was Steve Harris having for breakfast? I imagine he's having a bit of jam and toast. He's got a few crumbs on the kitchen floor of his place.
Sweeping those crumbs right up.
He's sweeping those crumbs up. He's storing them in a little jar for later.
What? Who's doing that?
Well,
I'm not you.
I am, yeah. Just labelling it as Steve Harris, 2nd of December, 2023. That's why I no longer clean Steve Harris's house.
Yeah. That and the restraining order.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, having outlined the genesis.
I think everyone knows we're going to talk about Virtual 11.
We're going to talk about Virtual 11.
Very long intro.
So we're going to talk about the songs, though, of Virtual 11. The 8 nuggets of metal. I'm trying to be AI now.
You can't get AI to write your script of just speaking.
These are the 8 nuggets of metal of Virtual 11 by Iron Maiden. Track 1, Side 1, Future Real. What do you think about track 1, Future Real, Sam?
I think this is an all-around great song. It's catchy, it's to the point, it's memorable. It's got some really cool spiraling riffs. And yeah, it's good. But this is perhaps a stupid question for a Maiden song. And it's something you touched on in the last episode. But why is the bass so loud, Blevin?
Why
is it so dominating on this song that is based around a guitar riff?
Yeah.
All you can hear is the bass.
It's just, I feel like Steve Harris's fingers are sort of slapping the inside of my brain. It's just like...
There are two guitars drowned out by a single bass line.
Yeah, it's... And I hate to say this because Steve Harris, of course, is one of the great bass players. Of
Amazing
generation.
bass player. Can't be overstated that he is an incredibly good.
But his bass playing on the song isn't even that interesting.
No.
By his usual standards. No. He's just very much keeping, doing what a bass player should do, just like keeping the rhythm down. And yet every time I listen to the song, I'm always struck by bloody hell. Like,
yeah.
The bass is very loud.
Yeah.
This speaks to wider production problems, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this song, I mean, especially as an opener, it typifies the album's production as a whole. You've got this overpowering bass. Everything else sounds super dry. I think
quiet.
And quiet. And I think I basically hate the guitar tone of this album. It's so thin and weird and just lacking any warmth. Like, everything is a bit weird sounding. And then the same issue that the X Factor had, and in fact much worse this time round, is Blazer's voice is really untreated.
Yeah.
And too raw, too dry, too lacking any production effects. And this is the best moment on the album. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe. But
this is a sonic mess.
But it just shows they've learnt nothing from the X Factor. Because a part of me goes, I can't be... I could just say what I actually think about his production, or I could just say, you've presumably heard the X Factor episode, and it's the same things, the cheap, tinny sounding guitars, the bass that's too loud, Blazer's voice that's quite a little bit awkwardly low in the mix, and like you said, just lacks any warmth. The fact they've just gone with takes he was doing as rehearsals, and but having said that, Future Real, if you go back to the episode where we put together our Dream Maiden set lists, this was my Dream Maiden set list opener.
I think it's a really good song.
It's a
really
song.
good song, let down by the execution.
And again, if you want to hear what the song sounds like with a decent production, there is a live version with Bruce, but that's not why it's better.
Quite like Blazer's tone.
Yeah, so do I. But the live version of Bruce just sounds thick and like meaty. I believe it's a B-side to the Wicker Man, Future Real Live.
Okay.
Which they did on the Ed Hunt tour. No, that was just the Ed Hunter tour. No, it was the Give Me Ed Till I'm Dead tour, which is not the kind of thing that they can do anymore.
Yeah, not a great name.
No.
We're not Motley Crue.
It's not aged well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come on, guys. But yeah, so that live version, and you just hear the thick, meaty, heavy guitars, and you go, yeah, this is what this could have sounded like. And again, it's so frustrating.
But as far as openers go, good start. It's a good song, even if the production sucks.
Yeah, good chorus. Like short and snappy, comes in under 4 minutes.
Particularly if, considering your precursor to this album was Virus.
Yeah.
This is a huge step up from
I can imagine as a Maiden fan, if I was aware of this album in 1998, I would have gone, oh, okay, we're back on track. This is...
Yeah.
We're cooking.
What brief, fleeting joy that would be.
Because, okay, I'm pumped. Future Real. Let's see what track 2 sounds like. The Angel and the Gambler. Interesting title.
Yeah. I don't outright hate this song. Okay. I think there are positive things.
Spoiler.
And sort of,
I hate this song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think it sort of starts off well. I really like that sort of hilarious big Hammondy sweep that happens. Like, there's some really strong Hammonds in there that have no place in
Sam,
Iron Maiden.
Those aren't Hammonds. Those are like the tackiest, cheapest keyboard I've ever heard.
There are much worse synths on this album.
Well,
but there are
that
much
keyboard
worse.
sound is horrendous. That dun 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 dun. It's just like Jesus Christ.
But it's sort of hilarious, and I can kind of live with that.
Yeah, it is. For the first 4 minutes.
No. But so what you're talking about is the synth strings, which are awful.
Yeah,
they're so awful and appear elsewhere. I'm talking about like a big church organ sound.
Oh yeah,
in the background of the song, and that I think is hilarious and great. But yeah, the synth strings are disgusting.
Yeah,
like Iron Maiden could afford a string section if they wanted it.
Yeah,
instead of just doing like you say, these really bad MIDI synths.
It sounds like a sort of Blackpool seaside kind of
And even in the context of, I don't know, 97, 98, those are low budget.
Yeah.
Like really poor. They should have sprung for an actual violinist here.
Yeah.
I think the guitars sound like arse, to be honest. They just sound really poor. The distorted ones just feel really scratchy and trebly. They lack the warmth that Maiden usually has. Instead, it just sounds really brittle. And then, again, this is sort of repeating what I said for Future Real, but you come to Blaze's voice and it just sounds a bit hollow. Like, don't get me wrong, everyone's performance is really strong. Blaze is clearly singing well, but it just feels so sonically thin.
Yeah.
And so you have all of that within like the first 30 seconds, but the song goes on for forever. It never stops. Like
it's almost 9 bloody minutes long.
This might be fun for about 3.5, 4 minutes. I know there's a single version that's about 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
Where they cut it dramatically. But this is nearly 10 minutes of Blaze just
10 minutes.
finding different intonations of the phrase, "Don't you think I'm a savior?" over and over until the words lose all meaning and just kind of come out of his mouth like a wet jigsaw puzzle. It's a nightmare.
It, honestly, after a while, you think, has something gone wrong? Like,
is the record skipping, even though it's 1998 and this is a CD?
Yeah, this can't possibly still be happening.
It just relentless. It's absolutely relentless.
And also, it is just Maiden. Well, I say Maiden, actually. I'm gonna put the blame squarely on Steve Harris's door here, right? This is Steve going, I can do melodic hard rock. And he clearly thinks he's happened upon the most irresistibly hooky chorus of all time that people always want to hear again and again.
Yeah.
And you just go, mate, actually nothing about this is good. The riff is basic and I don't think it's a good riff. The verse melody, again, hot takes. I've not heard anyone else point this, but listen to a song called Lonely Heart by UFO.
Okay.
A band who Steve Harris very much admires.
Yeah.
The verse melody of Lonely Heart and The Angel and the Gambler are almost identical.
That's interesting.
Chorus less so, but the verses are almost exactly the same.
Nothing to lose, but so much to gain. A little danger, it goes without saying, but what do you care? You're gonna go in the end. Played on the radio, heard on the news. Baby's gone lost, they found her shoes. You can turn out the light. You better turn out the light.
But A Lonely Heart by UFO is a great song, by the way. Like, that's a banger. But this just... It feels like a kind of weird... Almost like a kind of surreal art experiment. Like, can we just like do the same thing over and over? It's like a Stuart Lee comedy routine.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, I was going to say the same thing over and over again.
This is alternative comedy. This is not an Iron Maiden album.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. And that nobody at any point apparently seemed to say, mate, this is at best like a 3-minute filler song.
Yeah. And
But
this is what, the
9
second
minutes.
single?
Yeah, this is the first single.
First single.
In the UK,
Jesus.
this is the only single off this album.
What?
Yeah.
I assumed Future Real was the lead-off single
Well,
everywhere.
That is what Rod Smallwood wanted.
And Rod would have been right.
He would have absolutely been right. But Steve said... I mean, what's bizarre about Steve Harris is that he's clearly so convinced that this is one of the great Iron Maiden songs.
How much life has this song had post Virtual 11?
Oh, none.
Right. So
It's never
So he hit
after this tour.
He got brought back down to reality quite
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But like, I'll be honest, like this is one of the worst things I made. Like, if it was 3 minutes long,
It would be B-side-ish, but it wouldn't be offensive.
Yeah, but it'd be unremarkable, and I'd just go, well, that's bad, but it's like filler, right?
Yeah.
But the fact it goes on so long
As your second track
as
on
your
the album.
second track, I would say it's one of the worst Iron Maiden songs, to be honest. Even the guitar solos are bad. Like, I hate talking down about Dave Murray and Yannick, but the guitar solos are kind of rubbish. Just sort of really, like, here's a really bad Angus Young impression. It's just, oh, mate, I really,
Okay, so 2 songs in and we've got a 50-50 track record.
Yeah, 50-50, so, it's still in the balance. It could get better. And I would say it does get better if lightning strikes twice.
Interesting.
Okay.
You first.
So, it's not great. It suffers from a lot of this album does, of these quite disjointed sections of moody, clean arpeggio guitar type intro, and then sort of distorted, chuggy riff.
Yeah.
What I like about Lightning Strikes Twice, I think, is the chorus, which is a very idiosyncratic chorus, and it doesn't even sit comfortably in Blaze's vocal range.
No.
But I quite like the lightning, strikes twice, lightning. It's just, it's an odd song.
Maybe lightning? Maybe lightning strikes twice.
I think it's just lightning.
I think it's maybe.
Twice.
I'm going to look at the lyrics. Yeah.
But look, not far from a great song. A song that I find, amusing isn't exactly.
Maybe lightning strikes twice. Yeah.
It's a maybe. Oh God, that's odd intonation going on.
Yep.
Strange diction there. I think, and also Dave Murray's only writing credit in the album.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's an improvement. But anything would be an improvement on the Age on the Gamba. I think it's an odd Maiden song, but I don't mind its existence.
I think it would be a more acceptable song if it was better executed. Like, there's some interesting things about it. From the intro, you get those sort of pseudo orchestral synths that seem to just be everywhere in Maiden songs from this point onwards. Like, Dance of Death is full of them. But those atmospherics at least kind of fill out the sound a little bit. The songwriting itself it leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, the verses are pretty nothing. They kind of lean on that dun kind of staccato thing that you pointed out about X Factor songs, but a little bit faster. And then the chorus, I can kind of see the appeal in the chorus. But in the pursuit of authenticity, forcing Blaze to sing the chorus in like one gulp just sounds awful. And to your earlier point, it's clear that these are raw vocal takes taken from practice sessions.
Yeah.
Because what you get is Blaze basically going, maybe lightning strikes twice.
Yeah.
And like really rushing everything as if he can't breathe, understandably. Whereas that's something, if you were recording that song, you would do the maybe lightning and the strikes twice things as separate bits that you combine together, rather than this horrible cacophony that it ends up being. It's not cheating to have several takes, and to comp them together. That's just how recording music works. I hate it.
You hate it?
I don't hate the songwriting that much. I think the chorus could be really good, but I hate how it's executed because it just sounds stupid.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of daft, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I don't mind it so much. But
it should have been done in multiple takes.
Yeah,
it just sounds. It sounds like if someone was trying to sing it at karaoke.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it does sound like someone kind of having a crack for the first time, which is what it all meant. So we get to track 4, which is what some people would say is the shining light in the eternal darkness of this album, or the genuine standout classic, which is the Klansman. What do you think, Sam?
So I think, similar to like we've said before, this in particular feels like a blueprint for Naughty's Maiden. Mm-hmm. It's got like those arpeggiated bass parts and lots of sweeping synths, and like quite delicate guitar parts. I think it's one of the stronger songs on the album.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it should be 9 minutes long though.
Okay. Yeah.
There are like lots of memorable moments and there's a real mood to it, but it does go on a bit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then also, and I know this is the complaint I seem to have about everything on this album, but do something with Blazer's voice. Like,
Yeah.
this song does have quite a nice moody atmosphere, but if you just added like a little bit of light delay to his vocals, just something to kind of like lift them a bit.
Hey, he at least gets to track his vocals a bit on the freedom bit.
Yeah, and
Freedom.
it's just messily executed again. I think like there's a little bit of overdubbing, but I just think that combined with some of the takes sounding a bit rough, like the whole well, we can't let them take anymore.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit ropey.
But I think again, this again is another one of the songs off. Well, it's the only other song of this album where we've got a live version to compare against.
Yeah.
So the Rock in Rio version, and that's the version I think most people think of. Not
Yeah.
because Bruce sings it better than Blaze necessarily. It's just the production's better. It sounds thicker and fatter and sort of heavier and
like to be clear, I think Blazer's voice works very well for this song. It's just the way they've recorded Blazer's voice and treated it is rubbish.
yeah. Look, the production of this is not great, but I do think this is a really great Maiden song. And actually, when we went to see Maiden on the Legacy of the Beast tour, seeing the Klansman live for me was such a highlight. Like, I loved that.
I do like this song. I don't think it's as great as a lot of Maiden fans make it out to be.
Clearly.
Yourself included.
Yeah, for me, this is just like a brilliant song. Yeah, I take your point about the length. Doesn't need to be as long as it is.
No.
Maybe not, but
Even if you just cut it down to like 6.5, 7 minutes, it would be infinitely better.
But you know what I mean? But when you're enjoying something, you don't really mind. Like, I can be objective about
That's
it.
not true. Like, things can outstay. You can have too much of a good thing, right?
Like what?
Like a lot of Maiden songs.
Oh, not me, Sam. This reminds me, when I was doing a little bit of digging about The Angel and the Gambler, if you go on YouTube, someone has done a 24-minute edit of The Angel and the Gambler. They've posted it up there, just of the little caption.
Now that is a proper like modern art piece.
Yeah,
It's
because
just
9
how long
minutes
can you
just
make this
isn't
song
enough.
just keep
Yeah.
going over and over?
Just constantly, don't you think I could save you? I mean, fair play to that person who's just looped that bit.
Yeah.
24 minutes.
At least then it's a deliberate artistic
Yeah.
choice rather than running out of ideas.
But no, the length of the Klansman doesn't bother me, unlike some of the other songs that we'll go on to discuss. But it's just good. It feels like Maiden in the one hand in classic Maiden territory, in the sense that this is based on Braveheart.
Yeah.
So Maiden are going back to the historical film influences, but also, as you said, it is paving the way forward for I say the next incarnation of Maiden, but what this kind of version of Maiden stylistically can do
Yeah.
when things work and when the stars align. It's like, this is what they are capable of. But
I'd say it's the second best song on the album.
yeah,
I think Future Real's stronger.
I mean, it's one of two good songs on the album.
yeah. I mean, look, it's not an achievement being the second best song on this album.
No. So we've got a lot to look forward to when we get to tracks 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we've got the two good songs out of the way.
Yep.
Track 5, When Two Worlds Collide.
Do you want to know what I put in my notes for this?
Go on.
One word. Boring.
That's it. Yeah, it is.
I can't even remember how the song goes, and I listened to this album 4 hours earlier than recording this.
How can you forget? When two worlds collide, the anger and the pain.
Feels like I'm hearing it for the first time.
I mean, to be fair, like,
That's how unmemorable this track is.
it's, you know what When Two Worlds Collide sounds like to me is Poundland Queensryche.
Oh man, that is not a compliment.
No, it's It's got, because you can still see, I think that's what Steve Harris is going for.
Yeah.
It's got the da-na-na-na, like arpeggiated chords and the dicka-dicka-dicka-dicka-dicka.
Yeah.
But it's just, everything is so unmemorable. Shoddy production.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think what else to say other than just bad. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a real rock bottom moment, I would say. Maybe not rock bottom, but this is like the dregs.
Worryingly, I think we've yet to get to rock bottom.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything else to say about When Two Worlds Collide? I'm trying to think of how to kind of conjure up a...
No, as I said,
sort of
literally
sonic
my
image.
only note is boring, whereas usually I have a paragraph per song.
It is boring, unmemorable. Oh, I say that. I can remember the chorus, but...
I can't.
Sam, When Two Worlds
Stop it.
Collide.
Stop it. Let's just move
The
on.
anger and the pain.
Tell
So
me
it
about
goes.
The Educated Fool.
Okay, right. Now, The Educated Fool is a really strange song.
Yeah.
Is what I want to say. There's an awful lot going on, and I'm not sure the things that are going on work well with any of the other things in the song. But what I would say about it is it's interesting is the wrong word, but
I mean, a train wreck is interesting.
yeah, and that's kind of the bits that
A dumpster fire is interesting.
the bits of the song are interesting. And actually, you know what I would say about The Educated Fool is I'm not even sure if you'd call it the chorus because there's so many bizarre musical sections.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what the chorus is meant to be, but the bit, the end with Blaze going, "Time will show," and I quite enjoy that bit.
Yeah.
As a melody, and also I quite like the "I want to know," but dun, 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 dun. Like that's quite an interesting bit.
So
Just
I
none of
quite
these
like
things
that.
go together. Yeah.
I do quite like that bit, and this ties into something you said about X Factor is the way Blaze is directed to perform, or the way he performs in the context of Iron Maiden is really like he's trying to sound very serious.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
think that section is a really good example of, if actually only Blaze had put some of his natural charisma
Yeah.
and tone into that section and personality into that section, it could have sounded quite cool. But instead you have this really stilted delivery.
It is very
that
stilted,
feels
that's
like
the word,
someone
yeah.
feels really uncomfortable in this vocal context.
What do you think of The Educated Fool, Sam?
I think at this point in the album, I am so sick of slow, arpeggiated bass intros
Yeah.
with moody synths and a quiet vocal.
We're
Like,
gonna love track 7.
I know, right? Like at this point, we've already had that too many times. So many of the album songs start like that, and it was kind of novel at first, but Jesus Christ, at a certain point, it just becomes like, let's write a 90s Maiden song by numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, The Educated Fool, I think it has parts that are kind of interesting and cool, but as a whole, it is a mess of a song.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. There's like distinct, interesting moments.
Yeah.
But as a fully formed song, it is not good.
No. Well, that brings us on nicely to
Oh my God.
not Don't Look Into the Eyes of a Stranger. That would make more sense to me. It's Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger.
Wait, it's not into.
No, it's Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger.
yeah.
Which I'm sure Steve has done because it scans
It fits
better.
yeah.
But also doesn't make as much sense. Because nobody really says don't anyway.
Yeah.
This is rock bottom for me. Oh, no, actually, well, excluding The Angel and the Gambler, which is an aberration, Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger.
I think this is worse than Angel and Gambler.
I mean, it's hard to call, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like sort of people who kind of go, oh, Stalin was worse than Hitler. And it's like, guys, we're splitting
It's not a
hairs here.
competition.
Yeah, it's not a competition. We're talking about two absolutely awful things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger is compositionally an amalgam of things that just don't really work. It's so long. And then we said about how, the repetition of the don't you think I can,
Yeah.
in The Angel of
Yeah.
the Gambler, the repetition of don't look to, don't look to, don't look to
the eyes of a stranger.
which is not a good melody or an interesting lyric. There's nothing about that.
Do you know how long that section lasts?
Oh, I dread to think, Sam.
So from 3:18 in the song up until 5 minutes 25 seconds, that phrase "don't look to, don't look to, don't look to the eyes of the stranger" is repeated just over 20 times.
Bloody
So for over 2 solid minutes, it is Blaze reciting that same refrain over and over with increasing volume.
Which wasn't good the first time.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing about it. Is like, it wasn't good once.
What it makes me think of, and maybe this is true to like the writing experience, is of like quite an amateur band in a rehearsal room session being like, oh yeah, we've really locked into it.
Yeah.
We're just gonna jam this out.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be recorded a long time, but it's gonna feel like nothing because it just keeps building and building. And we're Uriah Heep, right? We have nailed this proggy vibe. And it's unbearable. It is
It's awful. Yeah.
the worst moment on the album by because before that, the worst moment on the album is the Angel and Gambler repetition. But this beats that because it's even longer.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then you add the other stuff about the song. So like those opening synths are terrible. They sound like they're being played through a Sega Mega Drive or a Sega Genesis for our American friends.
Got to think of those American listeners, Sam.
Exactly. All three of them.
Yeah.
But like it's just really poor sample quality. No one would have heard those in 97, 98 and thought, yes, this is as good as a real string section. It just the whole song is just such a weird mix of things. Like you say, it's an amalgamation of the worst moments on the album so far.
Yeah. Yeah, and I to be honest, I never need to listen to it ever again.
No. Well, I could say that about this album.
Oh no, it's not everything, but I would definitely.
I am never coming back to this album. As a whole, I am not listening to it in full ever again after this.
Wow. I will, because I'm a glutton for punishment, but I will.
No.
So yeah, don't look to the eyes of a stranger. And also, every time I listen to it, I always think how much I'd rather be listening to Into the Eyes of a Stranger by
Queensryche. Yeah,
Which
at
is
the end
such
of
an
Operation
absolute
Mindcrime.
banger. Yeah.
Stare into the eyes of a stranger.
Like, what a song. Like, if you're going to write a song about the eyes of a stranger, Steve Harris, that's
where the bar is.
It's
the closing track of Operation Mindcrime.
Yeah. And you thought, you know what, I can do that.
Nah, mate.
No, you can't. Bringing us on to track 8. Now, I reckon we've got very different opinions about this because Como Estes Amigos,
A whole new pronunciation this time.
but I think Como Estes Amigos is actually quite good.
Well, you'd be wrong.
No, I think I'm right. I think it's actually just quite a nice sentimental ballad with a good melody and a chorus I remember. I think, and Blaze's voice sounds good on it.
It is one of his better vocal performances on the
if
album.
we live for 100 years,
Yeah. I mean,
amigos. Like, I think Blaze sounds great on it.
I think it is probably the best Blaze sounds on the entire album.
Yeah.
It's a cool performance. It all kind of clicks in terms of his vocals. But the song, it's another just slow, boring intro that's the same as all the other slow, boring intros. Except it's not even an intro. It's 2/5 of the track is just plodding to begin with. And I don't know. I don't think I ever needed to hear Iron Maiden say the words amigo. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit weird.
It's incongruous. Yeah, it doesn't really work. And
there is a
also-
guitar lead about 3 minutes in that I think is great.
Yeah.
Like a sort of Celtic sounding run. And that's about all the positivity I can muster for this song.
Okay, well, I would say I think it's a good song. As much as I think it's odd that Maiden decided to go, you know what? It's been, what is it, like 13 years, 14 years since the Falklands War. This seems like the right time for us to release our take
Yeah.
on the conflict. Because I'm not sure if you mentioned earlier that, this is a song about reconciliation after the Falklands War, basically. Which is, Maiden right on the zeitgeist there in 1998. We're going to do our sort of...
Maybe now I'm starting to see why people thought they were dinosaurs
Yeah.
in the late 90s.
But I generally think it's a good song. I think, if you get me in the right mood, I think it's almost kind of affecting and sort of... And again, it's the only song not to have a Steve Harris songwriting credit on it. It's
What is this? This is Yannick
Blaze Bailey
Blaze.
compilation. Yeah. And I think it's a good song. And I think...
You
thank
can
God.
keep repeating.
Yeah.
I think it's a good song. It doesn't make it a good song.
Well, but Blaze thinks it's a good song. Blaze is very proud of the song. In many interviews since, he often brings a song up as being like, I'm very proud of that song.
Yeah, but it's also one of his few writing credits on this album. He has, 3 credits?
I think only 2. No, is it? Might be his only credit, actually.
No,
Was it him
he definitely has more than one.
Oh, no, so it's him and Harris on Future Real, is it? And then he has a credit on
Doing the live fact
Como
check.
Estes Amigos, I think.
Future Real, When Two Worlds Collide.
Oh, okay.
Keep that one off your CV.
He doesn't talk about that
And then
much.
Como Estes Amigos.
Okay, so 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I'm going to back it. I enjoy it. And I did the first time I listened to the album. I remember thinking, yeah, that's cool. Very different from Maiden, something quite somber, serious. And also, it's not 10 minutes long. So,
You know what the best thing about this song is?
sure.
It means the album's over.
Yeah, you can listen to something else.
Exactly.
So the singles, as previously discussed, Rod Smallwood
Yeah.
sensibly thought the obvious lead single would be Future Real.
Because it's 3.5 minutes long, catchy, and good.
Yeah, and good, and very much on brand for Iron Maiden, would
Yeah.
send a strong
Good
signal.
Maiden-y riff.
Yeah, and this would signal to their fan base, hey, this is like great classic Maiden.
/ really mislead them about the album.
Yeah, but would trick them into buying.
Yeah.
In the pre-internet age, they'd go out and buy it. But Steve Harris says, no. The obvious single here is, of course, the 9-minute long plodding hard rock song, The Angel and the Gambler.
I mean, to release it as a single, they had to cut it down to 4 minutes or something, right?
Yeah, I think it might even be a bit longer. There is a single edit, but it might
Yeah.
even be longer than 4 minutes. Yeah.
It's, I mean, the single edit, I listened to it and it is notably better than
Yeah.
the album version. But it's, like you said before, it's kind of a filler song to begin with.
Yeah, it's just like a plodding hard rock song. But anyway, it comes out on 9th of March 1998.
Yeah.
B-sides, so you're spoiled for choice of B-sides. You get Blood on the World's Hand live,
Great.
The Aftermath live,
Great.
and also because we're in the age of the Digi CD, some versions came with the videos for Man of the Edge and Afraid to Shoot Strangers.
It's quite interesting that if you look at the live cuts they choose as B-sides, they do X Factor songs. Whereas as soon as Bruce comes back, they do B-sides that are X Factor and Virtual Level songs with Bruce. So, because obviously it would have been interesting to have B-sides at this point that are Blaze doing Bruce songs rather than just live renditions of X Factor.
Well, we do get one with Future Real.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. Yeah, but yeah, for the most part, it is just Blaze doing
Blaze songs.
Blaze songs. Yeah, it charts at number 18.
And it's not great.
It's not brilliant compared to their usual run of form.
Yeah.
It's also got terrible artwork. If you've ever seen the artwork for the Angel and the Gambler single, it is not good.
Isn't it poor CGI?
It's all kind of the computer gamey stuff of, yeah, it's...
Oh, God, yeah. Okay, yeah, it is very... Even by 1998 standards, it's poor.
Yeah.
But what... I think... So I'm looking at the artwork now, and for those who haven't seen it, it is a CGI Eddie face and a CGI Eddie hand rolling some die. I guess you could liken it to, it's quite similar to the kind of graphical style of Headhunter stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it has, I don't know, maybe some of the worst typefacing I've ever seen for the text, The Angel and Gambler, which looks like someone knocked it up in Microsoft Publisher and just pressed print.
It is really bad. Basically.
A lot of flame effects as well, including on the Iron Maiden logo, which again looks like someone's GeoCities website.
And if you think that is bad, have you ever seen the music video?
No, I didn't wish to watch it.
Wow. Okay.
I had it on like a to watch list for a while before this episode. And I was like, I'm over this album.
It is worth watching. I mean, my note just says awful video, truly terrible. But I've got a quote from Blaze talking about the music video, right? This is what Blaze had to say about it at the time.
Yeah.
The technology they're using for this is totally new. It doesn't exist anywhere else. There's more technology than the Jurassic Park movie.
Are you joking?
No, that's a direct quote from Blaze. And I feel it's worth for the listener now. Bear that in mind. Go away from us for 5 minutes. Come back.
I'm also going to go away.
Sam's going to go away and watch
the
it.
video. Let's all meet up.
We'll all
in 5
reconvene
minutes.
in 5 minutes' time and then see what we think.
Don't you think I'm a savior? Don't you think I could save you? Don't you think I could save your life?
Okay, so I've now watched the video for the first time, and I would say it's not quite as bad as I was expecting from your description. I mean, it clearly it's using loads of graphics from the Headhunter game, and it's not fantastic CGI, and you have a kind of awkward mix of live action and the CGI. But for 1998 or 97, I keep forgetting what year this album is.
Yeah, 88. 98.
98. It's not terrible. It's like pretty middling.
Yeah, there's something about it for me, just the mixture of them. It just looks like, I think it just makes Maiden look old.
Yeah,
in a weird way.
I think that's fair. But I think that problem gets even worse by the time you get to something like Dance of Death and you have the Wildest Dreams video, which did look dated when it came out.
Oh, that did, yeah.
Whereas this kind of looks of its time.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give it. But that
with a
much.
bunch of like near 40-year-old men
playing a
prancing
terrible
about.
song.
Yeah, although again the shorter version works a lot better.
Yeah, but no.
But it's still the Angel.
Yeah. So the only other single we get is Future Real. Now, I always presume, because there is a video that goes of this as well, much more straightforward.
I've seen this video and it's just them rocking out.
Yeah.
It's a good time for everyone.
And I was desperately trying to find, where did this chart in the UK? Couldn't find it anywhere. Looked on the chart websites, only to realise they didn't release this as a single in the UK.
Why?
I mean, presumably
the Angel and Gambler did so bad that it wasn't
yeah,
commercially
the
viable.
record label just said, like, we're not going to bother, right? So they released it as a single in Europe,
Yeah.
but in no other territories as far as I can tell. So that comes out on 28th of July 1998. And again, we get more live B-sides. So we get Blaze's version of The Evil That Men Do,
Yeah.
which I have listened to. And again, doesn't really show him in the best light.
Yeah.
It's quite. I'm quite surprised they put it out, to be honest. And we get a live version again of Man on the Edge. And again, there's some more awful artwork. If you care to look for the Future Real artwork, it's Ed Hunter style CGI. Yeah, not really much to say.
God.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's...
Yeah. So it is clearly meant to be a riff on the Cyber Eddy from the Somewhere in Time cover, but done in very of its time CGI, maybe slightly worse than of its time, to be honest. Yeah, that is not a good cover at all.
No.
There's like no art direction to that whatsoever.
So, yeah, that's about all there is. Interestingly, there is an alternative Derek Riggs version that many people say, oh, it's far better. It's, this is what should have been on the album.
Power Slave-esque one.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
Do you? Okay.
I don't
It's
think
better than what they went
Yeah,
for.
I
don't
think
get
it's
me wrong.
I think it's much better than what they.
But
went
again,
for.
this is after Riggs moved to kind of computer-based illustration, and it just
There's nothing wrong with computer-based illustration.
I don't think Riggs is good at it.
That's a different thing altogether. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure. It would have been better. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not saying either is. None of them.
But
are
I
great.
think the Riggs one must be a mixture of hand-drawn stuff and digital manipulation. But at least there's a concept to it.
Yeah.
And B, like some art direction. Like for those of you who haven't seen it, it's sort of if you took the Power Slave cover and made it of the millennium, so sort of cyber Power Slave kind of vibe. It's very late 90s. It looks like a Gamma Ray cover, which actually is ironic because Derek Riggs did lots of Gamma Ray covers. So it's very similar art styles. So those things like Blast from the Past.
Oh yeah.
That's Derek Riggs artwork.
Oh right.
This
okay.
is very reminiscent of
It is very reminiscent of that. Yeah.
But yeah, at least there's a cool vision to it.
Does Riggs do Power Plant by Gamma Ray?
I think he does all the remastered artwork.
Okay.
So I think that will include Power Plant.
Okay.
I'd have to check though.
Fair. I mean, maybe that's a conversation not to have on this podcast.
That will be when we finally do the spin-off Kai Hansen podcast.
Yes. Hansen Pod.
Hansen Voyages.
Hansen Voyagers, yeah. It's what the world is waiting for.
Yeah, screw this Iron Maiden like. Let's do that.
So those are the singles. How was it received, Sam?
Badly.
Pretty badly, yeah. I mean,
if the X Factor was received badly, and I would say that as a minor X Factor apologist, it was no way near as bad as I expected. This is worse than I expected.
yeah.
So, yeah, if the X Factor was received poorly, this must have been just laughed out the room.
As far as I can tell, yeah, I'm desperate as ever to find the Kerrang review from the time, and I've done so much trawling, but I just can't find it. But from the anecdotal evidence I hear is that this album was, if the X Factor had mixed reviews, Virtual 11 was not well received at all, particularly, as far as I can tell. So if we have a look at
I'm going to stop you because I've just stopped listening because I've got onto a little bit of a rabbit hole of Derek Riggs artwork in the background. And he did do the Power Plant art.
Oh, did he? Oh, the reason
looking at the Power Plant artwork by Gamma Ray alongside the alternative artwork, there's a lot of self-plagiarism there.
That's why
it's really interesting.
I thought of Power Plant. Yeah, when you mentioned that, I thought that seems. I didn't know that was Riggs.
Look at these.
This Riggs-esque. Yeah,
Egyptian space.
That's Egyptians in space. That was his late 90s MO, wasn't it?
Anyway, sorry, please go back to what you were talking
about. So basically the reception is not well received, right? And I'm desperate to find if someone has got a copy of Kerrang from 98, where they reviewed this album, please, at Maiden Pod, let us see it. Because
love to see it.
We want to see that. In terms of its retrospective position in the Maiden discography, of all the publications who've ranked the Maiden back catalogue, there are only two I can find who have not put this last.
Name and shame.
Okay, so Louder Sound, that's Metal Hammer Classic Rock, put this second last.
What's below it?
No Prayer for the Dying.
No,
yeah, likewise, yeah. No, sorry. No Prayer for the Dying's not good.
I'm on the record on this podcast disliking No Prayer for the Dying, but it is not as bad as this.
Oh, yeah, no, not even comparably as bad, I'd say. Stereo Gum also went for the same kind of positioning. They said No Prayer for the Dying bottom, and then the second last.
There's a part of me that is, a little 15-year-old contrarian dickhead who really wants to say, like, the Blaze albums are amazing and, Maiden fans should just get over themselves and rate them more highly. But you just can't make that argument off the basis of this album.
No. And it's interesting thinking about the other kinds of records that were coming out this year. So, just a quick look would tell you you've got things like Cruelty and the Beast by Cradle of Filth. Interestingly, the same year.
For listeners at home, which is all of you,
Yeah.
let the record show that Blevin is a huge Cradle fan. Like,
Yeah.
the biggest Cradle fan I've ever met.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe the only Cradle fan I've ever met, though. So.
biggest Cradle fan and Cradle of Filth I've ever met, to be honest. I mean, I love Cradle of Filth.
I quite like Cradle of Filth. They got a lot of good times.
But, my favourite Cradle of Filth album came out this year. I mean, in terms of like other quite interesting stuff, you've got, big records by bands like Converge. You've got the first System of a Down album comes out in 98.
Good album.
Can you imagine playing anything off the first System of a Down album next to The Angel and the Gambler?
Yeah, I mean...
And saying these things came out in the same year.
Imagine you're writing for the metal press in that year, and you've got this release from Iron Maiden, which sounds pretty tired at best, and then you've got something like System of a Down self-titled album, which, for my money, is still an incredible album. It's not their best album, but it's so idiosyncratic, unique, and brimming with energy. And you got this album that just sounds like 5 dudes nearing middle age who are really struggling.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of extreme metal, you've got The Sound of Perseverance by Death, 98.
Cool album. If only just for starting off with Scavenger of Human Sorrow.
Yeah.
Richard Christie drum intro. Followed by like the most hilarious little guitar lead. So you have like 30 seconds of amazing drums and then
Spirit Crusher, Bite the Pain.
Bite the
all
Pain's
good
great.
stuff.
Spirit Crusher's great.
And even if you
Their
want...
proggiest album. Is that their last album?
It is their last album, yeah.
Great album.
Chuck Schuldiner went on to do we went on to do the Control the Night album. That's really good as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you want, if you're even...
But let's be fair, like more comparable genre-wise, this is the year that Blind Guardian put out Nightfall in Middle Earth.
Yeah. Or even more comparable, if you want great melodic heavy metal, this is the year Bruce Dickinson releases The Chemical Wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, can you put The Chemical Wedding, which is an album I've been listening to so much lately because I'm so excited, so much of it's in the set for
I know.
the tour he's doing. And so I've been rinsing The Chemical Wedding lately. And that is just so much better.
You can
than
see
Virtual
why a lot of the reviews at the time for stuff like Chemical Wedding seemed to be, this is what Maiden should be releasing.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, whilst I would struggle to say it sounded contemporary to the time, it at least moved things on in terms of Bruce Dickinson and Maiden's sound.
Yeah.
Whilst also just having really strong songwriting.
Yeah. And also, at least it had a 90s production.
Yeah.
It sounded contemporaneous
and
production.
similarly to what we were talking about with Mandrake Project before.
Yeah.
The way Bruce's solo albums are produced is far more in step with what's happening with metal music at the time than Maiden are doing.
So, yeah, that's the reception. Where did it chart, Sam?
400.
No. It was a new entry.
Yeah.
In at number 16.
Okay.
It did.
I mean, for Maiden, that's bad.
That is very bad. It's the only album it's their only album other than Killers in the history of all their records to not make the UK top 10.
Wow.
But what else? Usually we'd do the top 10. What else was in the UK top 20 in 1998?
Okay, this is 1998.
Yeah.
So in the UK,
March, if that helps.
UK late 90s goes quite heavily on garage
Okay.
music, and like dance and basically lots of electronic stuff. Not that much on rap. Still pop lots. So, okay, I'm gonna throw out a few names and hope for the best. Basement Jaxx,
No.
Prodigy,
No.
All Saints,
I would say garage is probably not the way to go this week in particular. No.
Okay, well, I've got into pop now with All Saints. Kylie. And that's more like...
Oh, yes.
Kylie?
Yes, yeah, well
It's
done.
around like her late 90s comeback time,
At
right?
number 10, the self-titled Kylie Minogue album, yeah.
Yeah. So
Also a
presumably
new
that's
entry.
Can't Get You Out of My Head era.
No, it's a little bit earlier than that.
Earlier than that,
This is
okay.
Kylie Minogue by Kylie Minogue, yeah.
Okay.
Any other suggestions?
I think all the stuff I'm thinking of is more turn of the millennium. Maybe Robbie Williams?
Oh, hello. Again, another top 10 entry. So Life Through a Lens,
Yeah.
through spelt THRU,
Yeah.
by Robbie Williams at number 4 that week.
Okay. Let the record show I was 9 at the time of this.
Yes, it's not bad.
So I am really winging it. But I did watch a lot of... there was a music channel when I was a kid called The Box, which was just music videos all the time. And I just watched that all the time.
Well, should I take you on the rundown?
Yeah, hit me.
So, number 1, The Best of James by James.
I would have thought James were sort of played out by that point.
Well, hence
Then also
they've got
American
Best of.
Pie would have come out around there. And Laid is on the soundtrack of American Pie.
Well, talking of soundtracks, number 2, Titanic, official soundtrack. Number 3,
course.
Let's
Yeah.
Talk About Love, Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Number 4, you said Robbie Williams, Life Through a Lens. Number 5,
What era of Robbie Williams are we talking about? Is that like Angels kind of time?
yeah, we're sort of, that would be Angels.
Rather than like rock DJ.
Rude Box.
Yeah, definitely not Rude Box. Let's not think about it. But rock DJ is a banger.
Yeah, yes, it's good. Yeah, I'm not going to argue that. I watched that Netflix documentary about Robbie Williams. You seen that?
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth
it good?
watching. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
Number 5, Ray of Light by
I should
Madonna.
say for anyone outside of the UK, Robbie Williams is probably not a thing, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Oh, in Europe, he was big. Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah. I don't think he ever
I just
made it
assumed
in
he was
America.
like a very UK.
No, I think he had a fairly successful European career, but yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So Madonna, Ray of Light, number 5.
Ray of Light.
Yeah. You all remember Ray of Light?
Yeah, well, my mum played that album a lot.
Oh,
I
there
had
you
bangers
are.
like Frozen on it. Good song.
Sure.
Would
6,
Garbage be here?
No
point?
garbage.
Yeah.
You've got In My Life by George Martin.
Do you know what that is?
Well, I know George Martin's the Beatles record producer. Yeah.
So it is George Martin getting together a bunch of celebrities to do Beatles covers. And
interesting.
it is
Yeah.
apparently one of the worst albums of the 90s, according
Oh.
to the AV Club. Like, it is literally like Robin Williams doing a cover of stuff. And all respect to Robin Williams, amazing dude. But it's him doing like a spoken word cover of stuff. Wikipedia, it's some weird choices of celebrities. And apparently it's a train wreck of an album.
I'll listen to that. Sounds
And
fun.
it's the last album that George Martin did.
Wow. Okay.
I think.
7,
there.
big album, Urban Hymns by Verve. Big
Is that what
album.
Bittersweet Symphony is?
Yeah.
The one Verve song I know.
Yeah, that's the one Verve song everyone knows.
Yeah.
And I presume the song that convinced people to buy the rest of the album.
Then presumably stuff like Blur and Oasis is still around at this point.
Yeah, ish. I mean, the
They're starting to implode.
yeah. 8 is something called Fresco by M People.
Oh, yeah, and people were big.
I'm sure they were.
You know, moving on. No,
Oh, yeah, is that M People?
That's M People,
Oh,
yeah.
great. I say great. Fine.
UK dance banger.
Number 9, Left of the Middle by Natalie Imbruglia,
Oh, okay. I assume that has Torn on it
presumably.
because that's the famous Natalie
That
Imbruglia
is the
song.
one. We know.
Although it is a cover.
Ah,
Cover of a, I think, Dutch band maybe called Edelsen? I can't remember the name. But it is a cover of like an alt rock band. And she put out that song a year later and reached massive stardom, which they did not.
there we go.
Awkward.
So 10 was Kylie Minogue's self-titled album.
Yeah.
We've got at 11, Maverick A Strike by Finley Quay.
No idea what
No
that is.
idea. 12, you've got Pilgrim by Eric Clapton. I imagine that's awful. 13.
Their assumption.
I mean, like everything ever Clapton's done since 1972.
Even then.
Yeah. Well, he gets a part, like Derek and the Dominoes, I'm coming.
Don't get me wrong, he's obviously an important and influential musician, but also he is a racist who owes all his money to people of colour.
Yeah.
So,
But also someone like Derek and the Dominoes album is the last thing he's done of any worth to me.
that's what, like 85?
No, mate, it's like 70.
Oh, jeez, it's even
two.
older.
Yeah, like honestly. Like anyway, you've got a Cause album, fine.
Oh, Cause. Nice. Okay.
No, not nice. You've got an album by Space, a Texas album, then
Texas.
Iron Maiden. Oh, did you say All Saints?
Yeah.
Oh, they're at 17.
Right.
Oh, I
Okay.
apologise.
And they would have been down from like quite high up. So they must have been in the charts for a while at that point.
Yeah, they peak at number 2. They've been 18 weeks in the charts.
It made me feel like I didn't exist in the
Sorry,
late 90s.
yeah, no, I should. Fair play. You've actually done better this week than most
Most
of the
weeks, yeah. Because I was conscious.
Yeah, it's almost
at
like
this
you
point.
kind of had a sort of we were sentient being in 98.
Yeah.
Lighthouse Family, Spice Girls. We're not going to go any further. I just wanted to give a shout out to 22 to Savage Garden because no one talks about Savage Garden anymore, and they were massive,
They were massive.
and they were Australian.
they were Australian.
Yeah, they're
I just
Australian
assumed
band.
they were North American.
No, I think they're from Australia. Savage Garden. Final entry from the charts for this episode.
Yeah.
Just because I happened to see it. At number 26, you've got Will Smith with his album Big Willie Style.
Nice.
Nice. Well done, Will.
What era of Will Smith is that?
I'm not going to pursue this conversation.
I'm going to look this up.
Sam,
I'm assuming this is like...
This is an Iron Maiden podcast.
but
People,
is this pre-Men in Black?
nobody
what year
knows
is
or
Men in
cares.
I think some people know. Whether they care is different. Let the record show, I've just Googled Big Willie Style, which I immediately regret putting into my search history. Oh, this... Okay. This is... Yeah, Miami getting jiggy with it. This is peak Will Smith.
Okay.
20 years before he slaps someone on stage for making a joke about his wife, who he's sort of separated from anyway.
Yeah. Great guy. So,
Men in Black is on this album. So this is Men in Black era. Okay, there we go.
right. Should we talk about Iron Maiden?
If we must.
If we must. Right. Bring it on home.
I should say, the reason why I'm talking so much about all the other stuff is A, this is a bad Iron Maiden album, but B, it's really interesting thinking about Iron Maiden in the context of all this other pop culture stuff.
And
right?
just how,
like, this is...
they have just, I see what you mean, yeah.
Like, there's something really anachronistic about... I mean, you could argue there's something anachronistic about Iron Maiden existing these days, but particularly in this moment in culture, Iron Maiden struggling to get themselves out there whilst Big Willie Style is out for the public consumption, It is some weird stuff.
I mean, but imagine if Maiden put an album in 98 called Big Willie Style.
Big Harry Style.
Big Harry Style. Right.
I'd listen to it.
Yeah. Man of the match. You have to pick someone.
Oh, God. Everyone should be ashamed. I mean, I guess it's going to be Blaze because he's clearly really trying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the circumstance and the way his performance is directed and treated that lets him down. But it's not for lack of trying.
Okay, that's fair.
Whereas everyone else kind of sounds like they are phoning it in. Like, it's good performances because they're all excellent musicians, but there's nothing memorable here.
I mean, I think I said Blaze last time, but I think actually I'm just going to go for Nico. I think his drumming's good.
Yeah. Well, he's an excellent drummer.
He's a good drummer.
He's not going to put a bad performance in, but it's not... There's not memorable Nico McBrain drum fills on this album. This is not like the creative zenith of McBrain's career.
He did some good stuff. I was actually listening to The Klansman on the way here today, and I was like, there's some good fills in that. And also, I think Blaze is doing his best, but because of what he's up against, some of his vocals aren't great, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm giving him an A+ for effort more than anything else.
Whereas I think Nico's drumming's solid. He's not culpable for any of the bad things that are wrong with this record. He just does a good shift, does Nico McBrain. So
he's a good workman. That's what he is.
You know, it's another good shift for Nico McBrain. He's my man of the match.
Okay.
Best of the beast, worst of the rest. The best song, the worst song.
Best is Future Real.
Okay.
I think worst has to be Eyes of the Stranger. Stranger's
Don't look
eyes.
in the eyes of a stranger.
My eyes are strange.
Don't
Whatever
look
it's called.
in the eyes of a stranger. There.
I think that's rock bottom.
Okay, I'm going to go for Klansman, Best of the Beast.
I thought you were going to say Klansman for worst.
No. I'm not insane. And worst of the rest, it is Look in the Eyes of a Stranger or Angel and the Gambler, but I think I might go for Angel and the Gambler.
That's fine.
I mean, they're both awful. I mean, genuinely, maybe the two worst Iron Maiden songs in history. Like, okay.
I do really understand where you're coming from with Angel and the Gambler. It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. And I think the shorter version of it it's filler, but it's palatable. But it's not as bad as The Assassin.
No, I think it's worse than The Assassin.
I think
The Assassin is...
Look into the Eyes of a Stranger is worse than The Assassin.
The Assassin at least makes me smile. Even if for the wrong reasons. Yeah, like I have a good chuckle and a smile to The Assassin.
There is no fun to be had.
No.
Here. That's fair.
Right, rating and ranking.
You go first. Tell me your score.
Okay, this might surprise you.
So, just for the record, for the X Factor, you went 4.5.
Yeah, and I'm going to give this a 5.
Oh, off.
but hear me out. I don't
Absolute turnip.
I don't objectively think Virtual 11 is better than the X Factor. If you ask me which one I don't think was objectively better, I'd say the X Factor.
But subjectively, how can you like this more than the X Factor?
I just do. I don't know why, but I would rather sit down with Virtual 11 more than I would the X Factor. I can't tell you why. Because I've just said it's got two of the worst Iron Maiden songs in it. Maybe it's because it's shorter. And because I've got a lot of love for Como Estes
proportionally
Amigos.
it's better because it's a shorter album.
You know what it is? I think there's 3 songs on this album, maybe kind of 4. So Future Real, Klansman, Como Estes Amigos, depending on the day, I don't mind Lightning Strikes Twice. They are 3 songs that I think I have a stronger attachment to than any single song on X Factor.
Okay.
I think that's all it comes down to.
No,
So,
that's valid.
Yeah.
That's valid.
so 5 for me.
Okay. I'm going a very different direction than you. So for the X Factor, I gave that 5.5 because whilst it was a really flawed album, I found a lot of aspects of it intriguing. And, I thought there was some good stuff in there, even if it was all quite bloated. Here, obviously nothing is objectively completely bad. Like, this is a group of extremely talented musicians who know how to write stuff. And even if it's not to my taste, like, it's not like that weird Morbid Angel album that everyone hated about 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Illus Dominus.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's not that level of poor. But I think the greatest offense this album commits, is that it is incredibly dull.
Yeah.
Just mind-numbingly dull.
Yeah.
I have had to listen to it so many times in order to just pull together some thoughts about it beyond I'd lost concentration 2 minutes into the song. So that and the production stuff and the fact that the actual songwriting isn't really a patch on most of Maiden's songwriting, I'm gonna go 3.5.
Ooh. Wow.
4 feels like too much.
Wow.
I think this is a significant drop from the X Factor.
Oh, that is a mighty burn.
significant. And let's be fair, like 3.5 or 4, these are in the context of Maiden's overall discography, right? So that a 3.5 here might be better than another band's 5, right? This is not some kind of all-encompassing objective scale. But I just think for an Iron Maiden album, this is dross.
Okay. I mean, I'm not even going to argue with that, really. But I just prefer this dross to the last dross. So
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
which I also
You're wrong, but it's fair enough.
Well, I think I am because, to be honest, that is not the majority consensus. Most people would say the X Factor is a superior album, and there are many more people who will come out to bat for the X Factor. You don't really see those people coming out to defend Virtual 11 so much, and I'm not defending it. It's not a good album.
No, but
for whatever
you
reason,
find something about
there's just a few more things I find enjoyable about it than I did the X Factor, really.
So you gave it 5, right?
Yeah.
So that puts our consolidated score at 4.25 out of 10.
Still making this the bottom of the pile. I think it's fair to say without doing
by quite a margin.
the math, yeah.
Like X Factor came in at 5, so this is still a big drop.
I'm not going to argue that. So, here we are.
Yeah, okay, so we've reached a very interesting point in Maiden's discography. Next episode, we're going to talk about Ed Hunter. In terms of Maiden stuff. But as like a bit, particularly after this episode, as a bit of a palate cleanser, why don't we talk a little bit about music we're listening to currently that isn't Iron Maiden for a new segment we've invented called Not Maiden Voyages.
Not Maiden Voyages.
Where we're just going to...
Apropos of nothing, this far into the podcast, here's a new feature point for you. Just
basically, I just
off.
really needed to get the taste of Virtual 11 out of my ears.
Right. Do you want to... So... We're just going to pitch a few things that we've been listening to outside the world of Maiden.
Yeah.
And
one or two things you're listening to recently that you've enjoyed and you think our listeners might enjoy or hate. I don't really care.
And for the listeners, if you have no interest in anything outside the world of Maiden, feel free to end the
Turn
podcast
off at this
now.
Point.
Your podcast
It's
ends
going to
now.
be brief, though.
It will be brief, folks, yeah, because it's meant to rain and I need to go home. So I'm going to throw something at you that I've really loved lately.
Okay.
A band called Moonlight Sorcery.
Good name.
Yeah.
Strong name.
They released their debut album last year, which is called Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle.
Great name. Okay.
Now, my pitch to you is this is black metal, but it's black metal for power metal fans.
Sold. Just absolutely sold.
So imagine black metal with neoclassical shred, orchestral hits keyboards, strong Children of Bodom vibes as well, but in a very black metal context. I discovered this album about a few weeks ago and I've been playing it to death.
Okay.
So Moonlight Sorcery, Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle. They've not got a whole... It's like, I think their biggest song on Spotify has only got about 100,000 listeners. So, they've got a bit of traction, but not a lot. But yeah, if you like your Dimmu Borgir / Children of Bodoms, for the Maiden fans, you've got lots of twin lead guitar stuff and shred. And also, if you hear the word black metal and you think, that's just bad production and Satan. I mean,
it's not 1992 anymore.
Yeah, it is that, but this actually has legit choruses, and it's actually quite fun, which you're not meant to say in connection with black metal. But yeah, Moonlight Sorcery, Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle.
Good tongue twister.
Yeah. Good stuff. I'm listening to that a lot.
Okay, that sounds fun. My recommendation, my first recommendation is on similar lines in that it is fun, basically. And to be honest, I've told you about this on WhatsApp separately, but it is the album, I Am the Intimidator, by the band I Am the Intimidator, which is a 40-minute speed metal album about NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt. And it's sort of like the singer sounds a bit like Halford, mixed with like early Hetfield. All the riffs are just super chunky speed metal riffs, and then all the lyrics are just utterly ridiculous about NASCAR, and it's one of the most fun things I've heard in quite a while, and it just rocks. It's great. I keep listening to it.
It was, yeah, you sent me that. It was very fun. Yeah. I did enjoy it.
Standout track is Gasoline. I would check that one out.
Nice. We're going to do one more?
Yeah, you got a second?
Well, the new Judas Priest album is amazing. What a purple patch that band are going through. Like,
What's a purple patch?
A purple patch is like a late career renaissance.
Just sounds like a bruise.
Yeah, or just like they're going for a deep purple face.
Yeah.
So a purple patch is like, that's my insight.
Invincible Shield is fantastic.
Yeah, great. But I presume you've all listened to that. Yeah. So, I mean, if you like black metal, so there's a lot of black metal for me at the moment. I mean, I've got a black metal.
Classic Blevin.
Yeah, classic Blevin.
I should say, outside of Iron Maiden, Blevin's favourite music is basically black metal.
Yeah, I do quite like a lot of black metal. So, being the proud British patriot that I am,
sure,
I'm going to rep for a bit of UKBM. That's what we call it in the scene, Sam.
The scene being your middle-class home in South Wales.
Yeah. So a band called, I'll be honest, I've literally listened to this album once, and that was yesterday, but I really liked it. And so I'm going to pitch it to you now. The Sun's Journey Through the Night.
Okay.
Who are a British black metal band. Again, they're not their debut album, but their first album, I think, on a proper label. So it came out on Church Road Records.
Yeah.
Which was, used to be, what were they called? I can't remember. That icky record label by the icky man.
Yeah, whereas Church Road is basically the Employed to Serve.
It's Employed to Serve guy, so yeah.
Right.
So the album's called Worldless, not Wordless, Worldless.
Okay.
And just very good, kind of atmospheric, a little bit Behemoth-esque, but...
Okay. It sounds worth checking out. I mean, to be fair, like, stuff going out on Church Road is usually a pretty good marker for quality.
But again, this is another album from last year that passed me by, but you would like Moonlight Sorcery more. Okay. And I think if you like Iron Maiden and you want to check out black metal, then Moonlight Sorcery are the band for you. I'm very into Moonlight Sorcery. But if you like this and you like black metal, and you like your black metal black, like my coffee, then the Sun's Journey Through the Night is the band for you.
Whereas I like my coffee milky and my metal milky. I like my metal cheesy, I
like
guess.
my coffee like my men. Milky.
Ooh. Anyway.
Yeah. One more from you.
Yeah. So this is not a recommendation for you because this is going to be preaching to the choir. But this week in particular, I've been on a bit of a Jerry Cantrell kick.
Oh, yes.
Listening to a bunch of Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue. I've kind of missed me at the time, but I've been spinning that a few times this week.
Oh, great.
But what I revisited this week for the first time in a few years is Jerry Cantrell's first solo album, Boggy Deep.
Yes.
Which came out the same year as Virtual 11.
Ah, interesting. Yeah,
and
it must have done.
It's such an interesting counterpoint of where like hard rock and metal is.
Yeah.
Like Boggy Depot is basically, it's essentially an Alice in Chains album in all but name and like missing half the members. But in terms of stylistically, it's introspective, metal-infused grunge stuff.
There's some quite interesting folky elements and
and there's
bits
and there's some like bluesier
country elements
stuff to it.
A lot of Neil Young influence, I'd say, to
but it's
Boggy
just
Depot as well.
Quite heavy at points too.
Yeah,
and it's just a really, so it's the reason why I was reading that AV Club article about the least good albums from the 90s, because they put this down as the most inessential solo album of the 90s.
Oh.
Which I thought was really unfair.
Oh, no.
Because I think this is essentially just a 7 out of 10 Alice in Chains album, but it's interesting.
I disagree with that.
And I think it's a really interesting comparison to something like Virtual 11.
It is an interesting comparison, yeah.
Because particularly at this point, Alice in Chains is imploded.
Yeah.
Like, it's done.
I mean, Lane Staley is about to die, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he dies 2 weeks after this album
is it
comes
2
out.
weeks? Yeah.
So you've had an entire movement in hard rock and metal happen and dissipate
Yeah.
at this point. And it just adds even more fuel to this fire that like Maiden the sort of prehistoric in the late 90s in a way that weirdly has changed since then. But yeah, it's a good album too. Has some real bangers on it.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to cut all of this because this is so far off topic, but Boggy Depot, I think, is one of the most underrated albums of that. I just think it's absolutely great. I think it's almost better.
I think it's really good. I think it's better than a bunch of Alice in Chains.
I think it's better than the third Alice in Chains record, which
think
I
it's
also
better
rate very highly.
Black Gives Way to Blue as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's certainly like the most recent Jerry Cantrell solo album I was quite excited for. That was actually not that great.
Yeah.
Like Boggy Depot is, well, I should say Depot, shouldn't I? Because I'm British, but
Yeah. There's a lot of heart to it. It's a really interesting album.
yeah.
And really enjoyable.
Here we are. So next episode, it's all change.
Yeah, so next episode we are going to talk...
Big things happening in the Maiden camp.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, spoiler alert for anyone who just ignored Iron Maiden after 1998. But Bruce is coming back. But
Yay.
he comes back in a very weird way via a best of album and a video game that we've alluded to already. So we thought we'd address that first before going to Brave New World.
Indeed, yes. And so in the meantime, you can follow us on X at MaidenPod.
Please rate and share the podcast. Share it with anyone who you think might enjoy listening to two mid-30s men ranting about Iron Maiden.
That's what we need. Right.
Thanks.
Bye.